Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's CC-Webinar.live Keynote and Panel Discussion Session, and thank you for joining. We would also like to thank Enxoo for sponsoring today's session. Now, I would like to pass on the microphone to Eric to introduce the keynote speaker and later on to moderate the panel. For audience, if you have any question and if you're joining us virtually, do use the chat box option throughout the session. That's all from my side. Eric, over to you.
Welcome everybody here at this hybrid event here live at in Lisbon. So we're going to talk about the wholesale industry in a data hungry age and all the challenges and opportunities. So I cannot do this alone, and I'm very happy and very pleased and honored to have a lot of panelists here live with me, but also virtually. And I'll give them a quick moment, a quick second to introduce themselves. So over to you, Artur.
Very good morning to all of you in Lisbon and around the world. My name is Artur Ostrovsky. I'm a Chief Commercial Officer at Enxoo. And Enxoo is a software and solution provider delivering digital transformation support to carriers based on Salesforce technology.
Thank you so much, Artur. And we go to Federico.
Hello, everyone. My name is Federico Homburg. I'm leading business development and innovation at Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us, Federico. So over to the UK, Nick.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Cowley. I'm Global Sales Director of Odin Solutions. We're a systems integrator and service provider in the voice, data, and network domain, servicing the tier 1 and mobile market from edge to core, and we're looking forward to getting involved in the discussion today and learning what's going on.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you guys being virtually with us. So now over live to Lisbon. Artur, thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Artur Mendes. I'm a VP of Sales at Sunbelt Cables. I will sales carrier of carriers in the submarine cables area and also in data centers.
Thank you, Artur. And last but not least, from the Netherlands, but live here in Lisbon with us.
René de Bademaker, responsible for supplier management within Experio. Experio is a global managed internet service provider from connectivity up until SD-WAN SASE services.
Thank you, René.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for being here live, and thank you and welcome all to you guys. So, Artur, may I invite you to share with everybody of us your presentation? I'm looking forward to hear what you have to tell us. So please take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. And once again, hello, everyone. I do envy you a lot of being there. To those in person in Lisbon, in this beautiful city, beautiful part of the year. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it, but hopefully the next time. Let me share a few thoughts from my perspective, from an Enxoo perspective, on the topic that we will be discussing today, which is the challenges and opportunities in this data-hungry age for wholesale opportunity for carriers. But to understand where we are coming from and where our observations are coming from, just a few words about our company, so you understand our perspective better. We are a telecommunication-specific digital transformation solution provider, working on Salesforce technology. And what we do is we work with carriers, a lot of carriers that are present in the conference today, even on this panel, where we help them to utilize Salesforce technology better, but also extending Salesforce technology with our own software that's been designed to address very specific needs of this industry. And it's bringing certain functionalities, certain business processes, and a specific data model set, helping carriers to be more efficient with their business support systems. We do have a little bit different approach to maybe other similar providers, because we really focus on industries, very specifically not even the whole telco, specifically B2B, enterprise, carrier, wholesale. These are the areas that we focus. And thanks to this focus, we hear that we often help our clients, our partners, to achieve a better business deliverables, shorten implementation time, and last but not least, limit the risks that are connected with the digital transformation projects. So, data hungry age and wholesale industry. We are living in a world that is growing constantly when it comes to data consumption. The traffic is growing all the time, and since we've can look our memories back till today, the traffic was growing and is growing at the pace of at least 50%, if not more, in many cases. And this growth is coming from various sources, various drivers. Just the technology itself is enabling the growth. We've been living with different mobile technologies, 4G, 5G being the day and butter today, and 6G being discussed already as the next step. But there is also just more and more demand, simply just more and more demand coming from new fiber rollouts, the FTTX infrastructure that is heavily supported and growing, at least in Europe and in many other geographies that are trying to catch up and connect as many homes as possible, delivering this capability to generate the demand. But of course, that wouldn't be possible without applications that are data hungry, all the video converting to HD, 4K, but also applications on not only interaction of the humans, but machine to machine, IoT type of applications that are generating the traffic, and more of the traffic coming from machine to machine instead of just humans generating this traffic. Finally, the big changes of how we live, how we behave, how we work, and the COVID was a perfect example of accelerated pace of those changes that is bringing the growth of the traffic to our networks. But here we are coming to, well, not a new, but all the discussions about sort of the love and hate relationship between network providers, the service providers, and OTTs, who are by the end of the day responsible for most of this data growth, and the love, because yes, there is a lot of traffic that is coming to our networks, but also there are some tensions, and including the fact that a lot of those largest content providers, they are pushing the content closer to the network, to the user, and actually taking away the part of the business that was typically reserved for carrier transport, long-haul transport. So that makes a lot of telcos to sort of think of, okay, so what is the new plan? What are the new business models that we can think of, that we can discuss? How do we reposition ourselves? And I think I will not be very creative, and here these are the business models that are already being tested, also on different layers. On B2C, we've been seeing telcos trying to sort of even compete with those OTTs with different successes, but kind of trying to step into the content and entertainment space, trying to provide this type of experience. But if we more look on a wholesale, on a carrier, then typically what the operators are trying to understand is trying to see where is their positioning, what is that they are good at, and what are they trying to achieve. Are they going to be hyper efficient transport layer, or are they going more into the enterprise solution providers? And And these are the viable choices, but also those come with a certain requirements on the business. There is a certain know-how that the organization needs to build in order to address those use cases. If you want to be hyper efficient transport, then probably you're talking about going into hyper automation effectively, because what is needed there is really the lowest production cost, lowest operating cost, and you can achieve this by eliminating the manual time consuming processes and converting these to like a zero touch processes on top of your network, not only on the network layer, but really on the full stack, including the business support layer. You're probably talking about the more of the network control and the on-net type of connectivity, while if you go for the enterprise solution provider route, then what you're trying to do is move away from like a network-centric view to more of a service-centric view, and trying to differentiate your services and position those services towards certain use cases, customer use cases, and we've seen some of the very good implementations of that already with, for example, the low latency for the financial services, which requires a specific knowledge, but still by the end of the day, it is just the same network, but applied with a little bit different touch or a media connectivity that also, by the end of the day, the transport network, but presented in a way that the media industry understands. But tomorrow, because the world around us is digitizing, and every single company on the planet is digitizing, that creates the opportunities for telcos, for carriers to position themselves for a new use cases where the 5G will be bringing such opportunities with the IoT connectivity really growing and accelerated with 5G. There will be a lot of this type of niches that could be addressed, and like, I don't know, smart cities or maybe some other niches, and definitely the SD-WAN is also an opportunity in that market space that gives us a lot of creativity of how we position ourselves, but also requires us to step into more sort of a service-centric approach where you need to build into your organization and into your capabilities more flexibility and a more sort of a ecosystem thinking with the kind of IPification, where you can aggregate and collaborate with other carriers, but also the vendors of other solutions to present the value proposition to your customers. It also requires you to improve a lot operational visibility of what is happening with your business, so you can make the right decisions, but also you can understand your network or service offering in regards to what the end customers need, and by doing that, by having this insight, actually providing a better service and a better fit to your niche that you are trying to address. So I think the sort of a common denominator is that digital transformation is playing a bigger role in this transition of your business models. You cannot just rely on doing the things the way the carriers have been doing before. And of course, this digital transformation as being the buzzword of today is different for everyone. right? And depending on how you approach it, how you see it, from what perspective you see it, it will be different. It could be a cost optimization. It could be an automation, but it could also have a different flavors, as I explained, like, you know, being more data centric, trying to understand the data and trying to leverage on the data insight from your network, from the customer interactions. So the digital transformation does have a different fit or a different solution depending on what you're trying to achieve. And one of the things that we are still seeing in carrier when we are working with carriers, and we are still surprised that far too often the carriers are really still living in a situation where the sales reps are really manually managing complex processes, and the decisions are based on a spreadsheets being sent around by email internally, or even the collaboration between carriers is happening via email even today. And that is definitely not a good starting point for this digital transformation that we believe is needed, and that is only accelerated by how difficult our carrier community is, with more complexity on solutions, with more collaboration between networks. So the off-net part plays a bigger role, with deals being very, very unique, and a lot of disjoint processes and systems. So in order to provide this simplicity for the end customer over this very complex and sometimes even more and more complex environment, then that requires a good strategy for what you are going to do next. Just to finalize on our observations, we need to sort of challenge the thinking that was always there with the carrier industry, where, for a very good reasons, the production layer was seen as absolutely the most important part, and a lot of capex was invested, and still is invested, as I said, for a very good reasons, into fiber, into bandwidth, and to many extents, this production layer is becoming quite intelligent nowadays. But at the same time, we've been seeing, and we are still seeing, the business layer that is underinvested. And by the end of the day, what happens is that when we have our salespeople, our partner management, off-net management, but also internally people who are responsible for fulfillment, assurance, and the processes, the situation is that the people are actually sort of the overlay on top of those systems, and are trying to close the gaps between the systems, and instead of producing value, they are spending the time on a very, very manual processes, and in order to achieve this digital transformation, for whatever your choice of business model is, there needs to be more focus on the business layer, and making sure that the business layer is interconnected with your network production layer, so you can get a better insight between business and network layers, but also so you can enable the automation, which will produce the benefit of speed, of cost reduction, and by the end of the day will enable you to transfer to a better customer experience. Finally, it is about the customer or partner engagement layer, making sure that you are not only automating internally, which is a prerequisite for any external automation, but you also open up to work with other carriers, other partners, through more automated way, providing more visibility to those people, but also more efficiency. So when you have your salespeople and partner management organizations, so they can really start building the business value, and they can help you go into those new business models and focus on making those business models work instead of just focusing on making the internal process work. I'm mentioning industry standards there because I think this is still the something needed in our industry. So the support for a TM Forum or MEF, even more specifically standards for those interoperability between the carriers. Finally, just maybe to mention the digital transformation is always a journey, and it's not like a one-time project. It starts, but to a certain extent it never ends. It's a continual transformation, and it's about being right with the route you take, with the focus where you're going, but it's also about being right about the steps you're taking, and making sure that you're not trying to do too much and too little at the same time, but you having the long-term vision, you are able to address certain elements of this digital transformation that are more relevant to you or your clients, your partners, for some reason. So, and what we are seeing typically is, people jumping for either for the CPQ transformation, quoting transformation, or sales process digitization, or maybe some others are trying to do that more on a partner side, investing in a carrier-to-carrier APIs and instant off-net quoting, or maybe trying to really integrate internally the systems to provide a zero touch, for example, for order management processes. So those are the initial thoughts from our perspective, from an Enxoo perspective, when working with the clients, and hopefully that will opens the discussion. So Eric, back to you.
Thank you so much, Arthur, and thank you very much for sharing your deck of Enxoo with us. So, guys, if I may suggest, let's move on, and let's grab the other guys, Federico, Nick, and Arthur and Renee here with us together. So, Federico, from your point of view, and from Deutsche Telekom's point of view, what do the current networks and the new solutions bring to the table to address the future internet demand? What do we see around us?
Well, it's pretty much what Arthur just said, and I quite liked the presentation that he gave, because he showed that our starting point was, or is actually, that we often in the carrier area have manual processes, that the customer interface is even manual. In order to buy a product, I have to call a sales guy. I cannot just log onto the internet, configure my VPN, and it gets delivered instantly. So this is what the transition that he pointed towards, and it starts on different layers. And he also mentioned that. So on the infrastructure layer, right now we are still operating in silos. We have the MPLS networks, we have the DSL stuff, we have 2G, 3G, whatever, but it's all silos. In the future, we're going to have more, IMS-based services that produce, many different products basically on one platform, rather than having proprietary elements. On the software side, we have now on-premise solutions. This is going to change towards virtualized solutions, and the typical buzzwords is software-defined everything, network functions, virtualization, and so on, where we use standard hardware basically to produce your service. You put your services, you can deploy them in a data center. You can picture a a 5G core network that you deploy in a data center somewhere, for example. This is going to lower the cost, the production cost for the carriers, but also for potential new entrants, for example. So this is a two-sided sword. And on the customer side, this is very important. You know, what I tell my guys all the time is, look at Amazon Web Services. They have complex products, and I can easily book them. I can configure them. Why can my customer not configure his VPN online? Why is that not possible? Yeah, and I'm not saying that that this is, we need to exactly copy this, because there are restrictions with respect to hardware and so on our end. And sometimes we have to deliver a router to the customer premises, yes, but in principle, that vision to have a service that is configurable by the customer over the internet, that can be easily deployed. This is what we are striving for actually at DT. And we are a large company, yeah. So, and there are many different departments. So we are starting on all different levels. So on the infrastructure level, for example, on the IT software architecture level, and also on the customer level, yeah. By you know, creating that, or working with MEF on standardizing an API, so that the inventories of, you know, two carriers can be aligned, for example. This is going to be still a journey, but you have to start with this. And ultimately what I believe, and sorry for taking so much time here, ultimately what I believe, we as carriers need to collaborate more than we do now, because my enemy, so to speak, yeah, is not necessarily the colleagues from Telefonica or Vodafone or whatever. Yeah, we're sitting here on the same boat, and we have the other guys, the hyperscalers, and they are trying to eat our lunch. And this is a love-hate relation. Yeah, on the one side, we need them and we need to work with them. On the other side, you know, we are observing that they are entering telco territory, so to speak, and they're coming from a different direction. And the only thing, and they have, you know, end-to-end networks that they control greenfield, you know, while we have our little footprints. So this is why we'll have to work together actually on many aspects, on many levels, specifically on the customer side, to deliver this Amazon Web Service kind of experience to the wholesale customers that we have.
Thank you, Federico. And by the way, it's not only the lunch, they will also eat our dinner if you don't watch it. So. That's for sure. Now, so thank you. So René, the internet demand and you know, and everything on the you know, what the current networks and the solutions can bring to the table. What are your thoughts? What do you see?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First, coming back to the data hungry part. Yes, we also see an increase in demand. People are using more and more gigabytes, sure, terabytes on the data. But when I look at the concept of data hungry in the wholesale industry, two things come to mind. And that is, one thing is from a wholesale partner being a customer of Experio, and on the other hand, a wholesale partner being a supplier to Experio. Both those parties are extremely data hungry. From a customer perspective, in asking data, they want to have insight, they want to have flexibility, they want to know their estate, they want to have self-quoting, API,
yeah,
enormously. And on the other hand, we as a customer are the same towards them, right? Give us insight in your network, tell us everything, enable us in selling your stuff. And this is where the big differentiator comes in, where you talk to relatively new carriers that have full insight in their network, that we're able to start with a blank sheet and create a network that is capable of software-defined delivery, auto on, etc. And those are the partners that we're looking for, because they will enable us to enable our customer with all the functionality that we have in Experio.1.
Okay, thank you. Over to London, Nick. As a solution provider, I mean, you constantly get the questions on actually not only on the quality of service, but also on the demand side, of course, hugely. So how do you address it and what do you see?
I think agreeing with Arthur, Federico, and Rene is that we've got a generation now who only know data. They know self-service. They don't realize how things used to be. And with the new players that have come into the market, as Federico said, you've got this sort of on-demand self-care, I can do everything myself type mentality. And I think it's a cultural shift as much as it's a technical shift. It's a willingness as a business to evolve and work together and collaborate, opposed to compete with each other. And Federico made a very valid point that often you're competing with yourselves internally, opposed to externally with partners. So what we're really seeing as a solution provider is this need to collaborate internally and culturally evolve fast, but also respect that there's an entire generation of people that have only ever known data as data. It's there all the time. It's never been, our generation as such is, you have to wait for the internet. You have to wait for things to arrive. You have to get things delivered. It takes a month. Now it's, I want it in seconds. I want it in minutes. So I think there's a shift of kind of usage, but that's only going to lead to investment. So I think it stems from the cultural change and a generation that know no different. And we have to meet the demands of that generation.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Now, Arthur, from as the cable operator, of course, do you see the same, let's say, key elements which are needed, to address the internet demand, or how do you see it? Do you also see, let's say, some more partnering models popping up? What's your take?
Yeah, no, it's a very similar approach. So all of us coming from.
So we all agree.
In the majority of the things, yes.
Will we do it?
we need to do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will not survive. So all of us probably come too much, as Arthur was telling, from a network-centric model, and we need to evolve. Otherwise, we'll be dead somewhere along the path, because these hyperscalers are coming, entering in our space, eating our lunch and dinner, eating our meals. Of course, we need to collaborate with them, but they pass from customers to be able to have their own network, their own fiber pairs, and being able to fulfill their services without us. And we need, of course, to adapt, because that demand is still growing for all of us. Margins are coming down, so it means we have more pressure, and we need to evolve in terms of the added value services, in terms of our network, what else we could do it so that we could survive. And that of course is happening as well on the submarine space. In terms of integration, I'm seeing interesting things happening, not only in trying to make that automatization a reality, but also in terms of integration, different services like the LEO satellites with submarine cables, terrestrial networks, and have all of that portions integrated, and that is fundamental so that we keep moving on. But of course, there's still a lot of difficulties that we need to overcome. Frederick was telling about, sometimes we need to put a specific router in the house of the customer, or we are depending on a third party. That takes time, and joining all of these pieces are still a challenge on our days. But we know that that's the path to move.
So, staying with you, Arthur. So, as we know, that the new technologies that they're pushing us, of course, and how do the new technologies actually can reshape, let's say, the products and the services?
Well, they help us. We are seeing grow on that technology in terms of innovation. And for example, in submarine space, we could see that in one channel that a few years ago, when I started, we put it 10 gigabytes. These days, we could put it 350 gigabytes. So that there's a whole industry change. And adapting that, we are able, of course, to have new services. So instead of just, in our case, for example, instead of just selling a capacity point-to-point, these days we are able to offer services like integrating data center to data center solution that is ready, or a remote peering solution that is ready. We pick up, we close the deal, and it's done.
Because as Nick said, it is not, we have to wait for another month. No, we want it yesterday.
Yeah,
is that correct?
That's true. It's always a bit funny, because customer decision normally takes a long time, but when they close it, they want it for yesterday,
immediately,
or for the day before.
which is a good thing, by the way. Which because it keeps us fresh and on the demand, which is good. So on the René, from your side, from Esperio, what do you see? What can be done on the services and product portfolio?
Yeah, so from an Experio perspective, any technology that is out there is something that we onboard. The reason is because our customer base is so diverse. The solution that they demand, it can be a 10 gig wave towards the data center, but it could also be a home office location that needs to be connected with 4 or 5G. So any technology that's out there, if we're talking about Starlink or other low orbit satellites, it's something that we incorporate in our portfolio immediately in order to have all the building blocks and create the perfect solution for our customer. That's on the connectivity part. And on the other hand, we're very heavily interested in of course, the software defined, there we go again, networking, but also enabling that functionality towards our customer via a portal, via an API. So also making it a real usable situation and solution for the customer, not only having SD-WAN, but that you can see your application traffic real time, that you can monitor it, that you can change it, that you can set up branch offices quickly and basically do everything yourself.
So Nick, and thank you, René. What and how are the constraints and challenges? And are there any limitations to the current technologies?
I don't think it's necessarily about limitations. It's as we've all said there. It's just adapting, and visibility is a massive part of this, because if you've got visibility, you can be agile, and to be agile means you can roll out services quicker to your consumers and to your customers. So I think a lot of this comes down to using the information you've got to give you that level of visibility. Once you've got that, then agility comes with it. And I think those that are the most agile are those that are going to benefit the most. So I think a lot of it comes down to using what you know and what you need to know to drive those decisions.
Okay, thank you. Now, Federico, a question to you, and then maybe Arthur, if you want to comment on that one, please. How do you think we can maintain and provision and networks the most cost-efficient way?
That's a difficult question. One element is for sure the virtualization, that we take full advantage of this, and 5G is supposed at least to be producible, more efficiently. So a megabyte will cost less than on 3G, for example. This is one element. The next element will be, again, collaboration. Not everybody has to roll out, huge networks by itself. We can do more sharing of networks and things like that. We can deliver the products in a different way than we do it now. And this, I like the MEF example, as said, the API examples ultimately. And one more specific example would be what we see is that the interconnected minutes are going down, and but we know that the overall minutes are going up. So it's just that we don't interconnect anymore, and we don't terminate anymore. So they're going to the OTTs, these minutes, and to the Twilios of this world. And one thing that we're doing here, we are right now looking into the whole CPaaS area, so communications platform as a service, for example, as one important little element to, first of all, deliver a call telco product in a different way than we do it now. And most importantly is to have a counterweight against the Twilios, Vonages, and so on of this world, who don't have assets, but who steal the minutes. And well, stealing is a strong word, but they offer a proposition that is more compelling than what the carriers can do right now. Yeah, so there is a reason for customers to just go there. And this is an opportunity for us because we can produce voice, SMS, video services in a cheaper way, roll them out in a better way, and as such compete with the Twilios and so on of this world.
Okay, so does it mean that because Twilio, of course, clearly CPaaS and whatever, that you want that the operator should go in that way and, try to compete, or do you think there is more, let's say, partnership models?
There are for sure partnership models, especially between operators. But what Arthur said in the beginning is that you have the choice basically between trying to be to focus on the transport side, and I would call this to be the bit pipe basically, and then you just participate, from the transport networks, from all the data growth and so on. Or you can be more on the service side, and then you can actually probably look into the packets and analyze the data that goes through your network, which would otherwise be just not transparent to you, by building services on top that you can then further monetize on the data side. Yeah, so this is another aspect, and this is the direction that we are taking here.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. Efficiency, I think that's a synonym for within Enxoo. So and on the provisioning side of the networks, what's your take on that?
Yep. So ultimately, the goal would be and the dream would be to go into like a zero-touch operations, right? Once we put the order to the system, and actually it's not even us putting the order to the system, it is our partner via API giving us the order. The network provisioning is happening automatically through the integration between different systems. That's a nice goal, and actually we do have customers who have absolute zero-touch operations, so they do not have people doing any manual processes. Everything is happening via API, but at the same time, I would say it's not the goal for everyone, and definitely not for the day one. I will give you another hint on how to improve the efficiency in a much simpler way. Simply focusing on providing the right set of data and the operational visibility to give your customers an insight and your salespeople an insight and understanding of what is happening on. Today, a lot of the work of the salesperson is trying to figure out, where is my order? What is the status of my order? Is it going to be delayed or not? Are we going to deliver on time? And they are just wasting a lot of time internally with this communication. Simply providing this layer of visibility, even not going into the zero-touch automation, but just providing the level of intelligence and the level of operational visibility will improve the efficiency of delivery process.
Okay, thank you. So looking a little bit to the future, gentlemen, if you allow me. Arthur, what are your predictions for later for this year, beginning next year? Do you have the crystal ball? What will we see? I mean, because we are in this data-hungry age, and of course, complete whatever with the digital transformation as well. What will we see?
I would love to have that crystal ball. For sure. No, nobody has. And there's different aspects that are sometimes.
What will we see? What will we face?
Well, in terms of data traffic, the demand will keep growing. And one of the questions was, do the networks or the operators are ready or not for that growth?
Or efficient enough?
Or efficient enough. There's interesting discussions of what are the elements that will capitalize that growth. If it is the 5G, if they are the autonomous cars, if it is the Internet of Things. And they're interesting discussions telling, yes, that are the elements, and are the opposite guys telling that elements will not use it because most of that data traffic will be local traffic and not international traffic in that way. So not needing the submarine cables. But it's true. We could see by looking historically and seeing that will keep growing. Prices will keep going down, and we need to balance with the new services that we need to add and new streams of revenues in order to keep balance and keep moving on.
That's a lot of homework.
That's always, even without reinventing nothing.
Thank you.
From
Nick,
scratch.
what is your take on, let's say, the future?
I think it's very difficult to disagree with Arthur and his points there, which is that hungry nature isn't going to go away. Of course, uptake of 5G, more additional backbone capacity. It's going to be investment that the users never see, but it has to be undertaken. But I agree. I think that it's a case of how do you monetize, how do you position additional services, but also it's that time to market is the big thing. People need to make that time to market shorter and monetize things quicker when there's investment being made. So I think that the key thing is data is only going to get bigger. It's how do you monetize it and how do you drive that efficiency?
Thank you. So Federico, if you would scope the future, what?
My crystal ball, yes.
Yes.
Probably 5 points from my side. First of all, we discussed this already. We're going to see more movement towards from connectivity basically to customer experience, and connectivity being part of the experience. One element. Second element is from dedicated, silos and software to more software-driven enterprise solutions, and SD-WAN is only one of them. There are more examples than that, also in security area with zero trust security and so on. Then on the network side, probably from vertical silos that we have right now with MPLS and stuff like that, to telco as a platform. Yeah, cloud native, API based. Now, a couple of examples, I explained them earlier on. Then as far as we are concerned, number 4 would be us as telco incumbents right now. We're going to have to manage and play around with different sorts of connectivity. And it was mentioned, satellite connectivity, open web would be another one. We will have to juggle with different sorts of connectivity, and we'll become kind of an orchestrator of different connectivity, of different sorts of connectivity, like a network of networks, so to speak. And my 5th point is, and this was not mentioned so far, is that the environmental and social importance of governance has become more important. So we have to do all that in a way that is CO2 friendly and greener than we're doing this right now. This is going to be in the future probably an important sales pitch as well. So these are my 5 predictions.
Okay, thank you so much, Federico. René, what's your take on the future?
Well, we don't have a crystal ball either, but we do love data and gather a lot of research. And coming back to your 5 bullet points, that you're trying to become Xperia, right? So that was a good sign. We do aggregate network. We provide an orchestra layer on top of that. We do that with partners globally. But if you look at the future developments, what we see is that due to COVID, of course, internet is part of the business connectivity that you need. It used to be a hybrid fashion, MPLS together with internet. Now it's going for 100% full internet. Those are transitions. Companies are making that transition faster than they anticipated. So that is a big change. For us, it's a good one. I can imagine that if a huge portion is still MPLS traffic, that will bite a bit. And I see this happening. Well, we know it was a trend that was going on, but this one will move much faster than we all anticipated.
Okay, thank you. So Arthur, some last famous words from your side. We were discussing the wholesale industry in a data-hungry age, the challenges and the opportunities. Some last famous words with regards to the future, Arthur.
That's very kind of you to ask me to give some famous words after such a great insights from my co-panelists. I think I do share the views and the insights. If I would add something from my side, what I think are the drivers that I see already happening and will continue is, I believe there is a big change of thinking and this collaboration and the ecosystem, IPification, and that is a big name of the game, and it's here, it's happening, and that will only accelerate. But at the same time, once we connect ourselves and we start working in a more collaborative way, that to even greater extent requires more focus on the data and the quality of data, and making sure that there is a right data insight that converts into decisions. And my final vote goes to culture. That was already mentioned here. I think there is a lot still to do, and it's on the focus today. Moving from kind of network-centric thinking to service-centric thinking requires the change of the culture and approach to the more agility, more flexibility around what we do, and that converts to the people we have in the organizations and how they shape our future. So that would be my 3 cents to the topic.
Thank you so much. And with these nice words and wise words, I would like to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen out there. First of all, I want to thank you, Arthur, for your keynote presentation.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and also your company Enxoo, who sponsored this hybrid webinar live here at the GCCM in Lisbon. And so, Federico, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For being here. And from London, Nick, always a pleasure having you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, chaps. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And Arturo, thank you for being here live with us.
My pleasure.
And sharing your knowledge and Renee from Experio.
Always fun.
Thank you so much. So, but last but not least, I would like to thank the audience here. So thank you so much for being with us and staying with us here at the GCCM Lisbon, the GCCM Europe 2021. And thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Hope to see you soon live and kicking together with us.
Thank you, Eric. Dear all, we are at the end of this webinar session, and I would like to thank Artur for his interesting presentation, our panelists for sharing the knowledge, and audience for participating and listening. This panel will be soon available to watch on CC Media portal. We are looking forward to welcoming you in both virtual and physical events this year. For more information, please visit Events portal. If you're interested in supporting and sponsoring one of our future branded webinars, contact CC team. For all updates and fresh content, follow us on social media channels. Also, subscribe to our Telegram news channel to receive exclusive invitations to our CC Media events and CC-Webinar.live sessions. Stay tuned. Bye for now.